Yeah, my name's Elizabeth. I am the staff lead and lead organizer for the AMOS project. So I kind of want this to be informal because I think we learn the best when we're able to ask questions. And at this point, it's been 9 months of talking about the issue and working hard on this. And so I can kind of get in the rut of saying the same things over and over again. And I don't want to do that with you all. So when we talk about issue 1, how many of you are familiar with what we're actually talking about? Just about everybody, roughly. Do you need more information? Awesome. Okay. So we did a series of conversations. The AMOS project is a part of a larger organization known as the Ohio Organizing Collaborative. And there are about 9 shops, we call them shops, organizing shops inside of the OOC. There's some in Columbus, Cleveland, Akron, Youngstown, Steubenville and East Liverpool, Dayton, and Cincinnati. And AMOS is one of those. We've hosted about 2,000 conversations here in AMOS over the last 2 years. I believe Christ Church Cathedral was a part of our listening campaign, where we asked what made people feel safe. And did policing make you feel safe? Did putting people in jail make you feel more safe or less safe? Does your family have access to opportunities and resources that you need? Do your children have access to good schools and quality education? And from that, we heard a resounding no, that incarceration does not make us feel more safe. And while we were hosting our own listening conversations across Cincinnati, the rest of the state were hosting some as well. And across the board, what we heard was that locking people up who are suffering from addiction is not helping to heal our communities. If anything, it's making them worse. So from that, there were conversations that had already been started in the OOC and also with the Ohio Justice and Policy Center. And legislation was developed. And the legislation is what we have now, which is issue 1. And it does 4 main things. The first thing that issue 1 does is it reclassifies nonviolent personal use possession charges, which are F4 and F5 felonies currently. And so those weights or quantity is only for personal use possession. And it has to be nonviolent. So if you were in the process of robbing someone and you also had a small amount of marijuana on you, you would not qualify for this. You would only qualify if you were nonviolent personal use. And what it does is it makes those F4 and F5 drug possession felonies misdemeanors. Retroactively, too. We feel like that's important because it addresses the racialized war on drugs, as we know, because a lot of people in my community who look like me have F4 and F5 drug possession charges. We're 3 to 10 times more likely, depending on which county, to actually get those possession charges than people of a lighter hue. This reclassification would allow people to get access to grants for school, to get access to jobs, to get access to housing opportunities, to get access to social services. Right now, if you have a drug possession felony, you cannot apply for grants for school, for higher education. You can't apply for, you can't get food stamps right now. And actually, they're trying to make it harder if you have a drug possession felony to do just about anything. And so what we see all the time is communities of people who are already under-resourced, becoming more and more under-resourced because of these possession felonies. So we want to do that. We want to make sure that people are able to have upward mobility in their lives by no longer having an F4 or an F5 possession felony. The second thing that it does is it stops what we call the probation to prison pipeline. So roughly 23 to 27% of the people who are in county jails or prisons right now are there for a probation or parole violation. That is not a new offense. So that means if you've already served your time for the crime that you did, and you are out on probation or parole, and you miss an appointment with your parole officer, or you lose your job, or you can't pay your fees or fines, they will send you back to jail or prison for whatever time was left on the shelf.
27, you said?
Roughly 27% of people, yes. Between 23 and 27%. So that's like a fourth to a third of the people in jail are there because of missing a probation meeting or something along those lines. We want to stop that by incentivizing parole and probation officers to stop sending people back to jail for offenses that are not new. Because we believe that once you've served your time and you've been able to get good time on the shelf, that you should be able to live a good life. Which the Parole Officers Union in the state of Ohio has actually endorsed issue 1, because they also believe that what's happening right now is a travesty. And what's happening right now is destroying the moral fabric in our communities. The third thing that issue 1 does is it ups Ohio's earned credit time. So currently Ohio is on the bottom of the totem pole when we talk about earned credit. So earned credit is for whatever program, rehabilitation program, AANA, GED program that you spend time in while you were incarcerated. Currently in the state of Ohio, for every 30 days that you're spending time trying to better yourself while you're incarcerated, you get 1 day off your shelf for every 30 days. Yeah. I'm like, wow. I'm sure a lot of people are really, really excited about that. So the rest of the nation is roughly for every 2 days that you spend, you get 1 day off your sentencing. And the median is for every 4 days that you spend, you get 1 day off your sentencing. So what we are saying and suggesting in issue 1 is for every 4 days that you spend in a rehabilitative program, whether that's job skills, GED, higher education courses inside of the prison, that you should get 1 day off your sentence, which will put us on par for the median average around the state of Ohio. And the last thing that it does, which is my personal favorite, is it moves that money, which is roughly $136 million, which Policy Matters actually put out a report about that, because that's their thing that they do, is look at these policies and see how much money any sort of legislation will save us. Roughly $136 million every year from no longer incarcerating people who are nonviolent drug possessors, and no longer having to put all of that time into probation and parole, the court system, housing of inmates, things of that nature. It moves that money into 3 different buckets. The first 70% goes into treatment, expanding access to treatment. The second 15% goes into existing services for crime survivors. And then the last 15% goes into implementation and the things that we will actually need to train our probation and parole officers around this, to train judges and prosecutors around this, to expand drug courts that we currently have in the state of Ohio. So the 70%, drug treatment, drug prevention, and trauma care. I don't know if any of you have people who suffer from addiction in your family or friends, or you've seen it growing up, or you know of someone. Most of the time, those folks suffer from what I like to call a broken heart. Because people, when you have pain, you try to numb your pain. And what we want to do, instead of just saying that you are an addict and therefore you do not deserve to have a good life, what we want to do is expand access to treatment. Right now, in the state of Ohio, less than half of our counties, we've got 88 counties, less than half of our counties have a drug treatment facility in them. Yeah. Now, all of them have drug court, but less than half of them have drug treatment. 3 months ago, one of my friends who has been using heroin for the past 10 years, and I'm so grateful that he's still alive at this point, he was ready to go get clean. He wanted to get into treatment, he was ready. So we called almost every treatment facility in Cincinnati, and they did not have beds available. And so what we are finding is that people who are suffering from addiction, when they are ready to get into treatment, there are no beds available. Now, if they're ready to go commit a crime, there's a bed available and ready for them, which is actually on the floor right now because Hamilton County Justice Center is overcrowded. It's like between 1,400 people there right now, and it's a facility that's supposed to house around 800. So people are sleeping in the hallways in the Justice Center currently. So he wanted to get treatment. We called all over everywhere. He doesn't have insurance. He was unable to get into treatment, and now he's homeless on the streets. And I'm worried, needless to say. In the past 2 years, I've buried 3 of my friends, and I've found 7 people overdosed on the streets in Cincinnati. And for me, this is personal, because one of those friends that I buried was actually in jail for a drug-related charge for 5 months and got out of jail, and within 24 hours was found overdosed. Because we also know that when we lock addicts up, their tolerance goes down. And if we don't address the root causes of the addiction, they get out and they use again. And if you are an addict who gets locked up, you are 8 to 10 times more likely to overdose when you get out of jail than if you were to just stay out of jail. So, what issue 1 is to me is a way that we can actually address a couple of things that are scourges on our society right now. The first thing is we have to learn how to be compassionate to each other and with each other. Issue 1 is a compassionate response. So how do we handle people who have lack of resources? How do we handle people who are suffering from mental health? How do we handle people who have trauma? How do we handle people who are suffering from addiction?